Hello beadlings, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a candy mushroom tutorial. Now I do have a tutorial for this already up on my channel. It was one of the first tutorials that I did, and it is a remake of an older tutorial by Glitterbeard. But I've gotten a lot of comments on that tutorial that people are struggling specifically with the stem, and because that was an earlier tutorial, there are some stuff in it, like some things in it that I have been wanting to change, so I am redoing it here, and I'm going to do my best to go slow and make it as beginner friendly as I possibly can. If you would like to skip to the tutorial, go ahead and go to this timestamp right here, and if you want to stick around for the announcements, here we go. The first announcement is I got some hand tattoos. Hello. I'm addressing it now so that I don't get 500 comments telling me that I got new hand tattoos because I noticed. I have trouble with my lefts and my rights, so this is a utility tattoo as well as just being something that is like silly, goofy. It's a matching tattoo with a friend. It makes me really happy. Every time I look at my hands now, I smile. So yeah, highly recommend it. Announcement number 2 is if you would like to help support the channel, I do have a Patreon. You can sign up there. It's like, I think $3 a month. It's very, very cheap. All those proceeds, whatever, all the money goes towards helping support the channel, keeping me in beads and time and ability to make these tutorials. Totally fine if you can't or don't want to do that. You can also just like, follow, leave a comment, all that good stuff. I really appreciate all of you that are here and watching my tutorials and using them. You rock. Announcement number 3, I will be at Base Ribbon Pines and be volunteering at the Female Ravers United booth. Even though I am not a female, I do absolutely support that group and everything they stand for. It's inclusive of everyone who is not a cis male, and it is a great place if you are just starting out in raving and you want to build community. It's an amazing group to do that in. So Base Ribbon Pines, which is a small festival here in Minnesota, they're going to have a booth. I will be doing a candy class there live, and there'll be like a table where people can come and just chill out and make candy that I will be running. So I'm really excited for that, and hopefully by the time I do the next tutorial or the one after that, I'll be able to let you guys know how it all went. I will also be at Base Canyon in August. That's going to be my only other big festival this year, so if you want to come meet me in person and trade candy and hang out and rave together, that's going to be the best place to do it. Otherwise, I'll just be at some local Minnesota shows between now and the end of the year. All right, so materials. You are going to need at least 2 different colors of pony bead. When I do this tutorial, when I show you, I'm going to be using more than 2 colors because I think color coding the different layers will help people who have been confused about how to do it on the old tutorial, but you really only need 2 different colors, one for the mushroom cap and then one for the spots and stem. These are 9mm pony beads. I get them at beadtin.com. You will need stretchy string. I find that 1.2mm cloth covered stretch cord tends to work the best for this specific project, but you can definitely try it with other materials. I can't promise that it will work as well, so this is the one that I recommend. I get this on Amazon. Scissors, obviously, for cutting the string, and then a candy needle. This is a plastic yarn needle. This is almost exclusively what I use. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them at Walmart, you can get them at craft stores. Some people prefer using the metal kind, like tapestry needles. That is also totally fine, but this project does get a little tricky, and it is a lot easier to do if you are using a needle. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is cut off a length of string. I tend to use a string that is about 3 feet long. However, I've gotten feedback from other people that they struggle when it is that short. So I recommend maybe cutting off a length of string about 5 feet long. Start with that, and then as you make mushrooms, you'll kind of get a feel for exactly how long you need your string to be. But 5 feet of string is going to be plenty, and you'll be fine with that. Once you've got your length of string, you're going to add 3 beads. The first 3 beads you're adding are going to be the top of your mushroom. So because I'm doing different layers in different colors, I'm going to start with red. So we add 1, 2, 3 beads, and then we're going to tie it off. And I'm going to just do a triple granny knot. You can do a surgeon's knot if you prefer. You just need something that is going to solidly stay in place. Then take the short end and cut that off. So now we've got a knot there and we've got a long end of string. We're gonna take the long end, we're gonna tie the needle onto the long end. I'm gonna do this with a double knot so that the needle stays in place. and I will probably have to retie it at least once during this tutorial, but that'll stay for at least a little while. Now we're going to take the string, we're going to run it through one of the beads so that the knot is hidden inside of a bead. And when I am doing this tutorial, I'm always going to be adding beads and moving clockwise to the right. So now we're going to add 3 beads, one in between each of these little spots, and that's going to be these beads here. So we're doing the first round of spots. So I'm going to add 1 white bead, go through the next, 1 white bead, go through the next, 1 white bead, go through the next, just like that. Okay. So now it's going to look a little bit like a Triforce or like a bug's head. Your string is going to be coming out of one of the white beads or one of the spots. Now we are going to add 3 beads in between each of the white beads. And these 3 beads are going to be our next layer here of the cap. So because we're moving to the next layer, I'm going to switch colors. 1, 2, 3. So we'll add 3 beads and we'll go into the next. And you want to keep the tension pretty tight so that it goes into a little triangular point. You can see I've got it wrapped around my pinky, I've got it wrapped around my finger. Like, you really want to keep the tension tight on this the entire time that you're making it, because the tension is what forces it to keep its mushroom shape. So we're going to add another 1, 2, 3 into the next. And then again, 3 more. 1, 2, 3, and into the next. And when we go into this next bead, we are back at the beginning, so we're also going to go 1, 2, and out of this top bead. So go through the white, and then through 2 of the orange. And keep it pulled tight. Perfect. So I got this. Okay. We're going to add some more beads. We're going to go through this next orange bead. Come on. Perfect. So now we are in an empty spot. There is room for a bead here. And that's going to be these beads that sit right underneath the white spots. And I'm going to switch colors again so you can really easily see what I'm doing. So you add the bead and you go through the next 3. And as you pull it tight, that forces it to sit in that spot, and it also forces it into a little bit of a curved pattern. So 1 more. And through the next 3. And we're going to add 1 more, and then we're going to go through the next 2 and come out of this point. Just like that. So now you're going to have a shape that looks like this. All right, so from here, we're going to add our next row of spots, which is going to be this row right here of white. In order to do that, we're going to add 1 white bead in between each of these sticking out beads. So it's going to be 6 beads in total. So we go add 1 white bead, skip over this one, go into the next. Add 1 white bead, skip over this one, go into the next. Oop. I'm doing my best to not bump the camera. Add 1 white bead, skip over this one, go into the next. You get the idea, right? and I'm showing you the whole process instead of skipping parts like I normally do, even though it's a little boring, I think, but for people who did struggle with the other tutorial, I am doing my best to make this like as beginner friendly as I can. Okay, so we're adding the last white bead. We're going to go into this bead, and we're also going to go into this first white bead that we added. Just like that. Perfect. So for our next layer of beads, it's going to be this layer right here. And it's going to be, if you're doing all one color, it'll be the colored beads. For me, I'm going to switch colors again and go to green. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 3 beads, all of the same color, into the next white bead. So we're just adding 3 beads of the mushroom cap color in between the white beads. And we do that all the way around, keeping it pulled tight so that it maintains that triangular shape. Okay, and then we're doing our last one. And when we do this last one, we are going to go into the white bead, and then we're also going to go into the next 2 colored beads and come out through that point. 1, 2, 3, just like that. So we're going to be coming out of that point. Now for the next layer, we're going to add 3 beads again in between each point, but we are also adding another layer of spots. So it's going to be colored bead, white bead, colored bead, and that's going to be this layer right here. So colored, white, colored, and we're going to switch colors again. So we'll do blue, white, blue. So it's really clear which layer is which. There, you can see I'm kind of like squishing it together to give it that domed shape and keeping the tension pretty high because you keep pulling it the entire time. That's why I like using 1.2 millimeter instead of 1 millimeter or less, is it does not break on you. And so we're adding 3 beads in between each point all the way around. Okay, and so now we're on the last one. We are back at the beginning, and just like before, we're going to add 3 beads, go through this one, and then up 1, 2, out this white point. Just like that. So we go through that one, and we also go through these 2. Pull it tight. And we're going to repeat that exact same thing again. We'll do another layer where there's spots, so it's going to be colored, white, colored, and I'm switching colors again to show you the new layer. 3 beads in between each point, just like that. And you can see it's starting to get that mushroom dome shape. Those of you who are familiar with X-Base will be like, oh, this feels very familiar. But we're going to do this all the way around. Oops. Make sure you're just going through that middle bead. Make sure you're not accidentally picking up any other beads. We're just attaching it by the middle. And we are coming up on the last one. So once again, we're going to add 3. We're going to go through this middle bead and we're going to go up through the next 2. So we're coming out the point. Just like that. Okay. Now we're going to do one more layer of all solid color beads, and I'm going to switch back to red. We'll just cycle through the rainbow here. So it's going to be 3 beads in between each point, and they're all going to be the same color. There we go. Just like that. And this is actually the layer that's the underside of your mushroom. So whatever color you make this row is going to be like, you're not going to see it when the mushroom's like this because it's going to be underneath. We're just doing 3 beads in between each point, all the same color. There we go. Okay, last one. We're going to go into that point, into that white bead, and then up through, out the top of this spike, just like we have been doing. Okay. Okay, so we've got one more layer to go on the cap, and we're just going to put 1 solid color bead in between each of these middle beads. So I'm going to switch colors. You don't have to. And we're going to just, and we're going to pull tight. And pulling tight is what kind of cinches it in and gets us ready for the stem. So we're just doing 1 bead in between all of the points. Just like that. Okay. You can see I'm pulling tight. And then when we add this next bead, we add this last bead, we are going to go through this point. We'll go through this bead here. And we are also going to go through this bead here, which is the first bead that we've added in this row. So we'll go through here and we pull it tight. And then we go through. It's too tight. Help me. There we go. This is why you need the needle. Then we go through here, which is the first bead we've added in this row, and we keep it pulled tight. Okay. This is the end of the mushroom cap. We are now going to start on the stem. So you can see comparison, right? The next thing we do is going to be the stem. Normally you would do this in all white beads. I am not going to do that. I'm going to start it with white beads and then I am going to switch colors. So the stem on this is going to be alternating colors specifically so that it is easier for you to see what I am doing. Normally everything from here on out would all be white beads or whatever color of bead you want your mushroom stem to be. Coming out from this bead, we are going to add 1 white bead. And we are going to go into the next orange bead over. So we are skipping over this bead and we are going into this bead. Now we run our string through this bead and through this bead. So we don't put a bead there, we skip it by running our string through the next 2 beads. Now we add 1 white bead and go into the next orange bead. So we skip over this one, we go into the next orange one. And then we run our string through this bead and this bead. The next two beads, we skip them by running our string through them. That's 1 and 2. And now we add 1 white bead. And run our string through the next orange bead. So we skip this one, we run our string into the next one. And then we run our string through the next 3 beads. So 1, 2, 3. This red one, this orange one, and this white one. So we're coming out of a white bead when we're done with this. So you go 1, 2, and 3. So we're coming out of a white bead. That is the first layer of the stem. I said it before, I'm going to say it again one more time. Normally you would continue with white beads. I am going to switch colors. I'm going to go to green specifically so it is easier for you to see what I am doing with the layers here. So we add, hello, goodbye, there we go. 1 white bead, and we go into the next white bead. 1 white bead, into the next white bead. 1 white bead, into the next white bead. Okay? We pull it tight, and then we run our string into the first white bead that we added on this layer. For me, that's a green bead. For you, that would be a white bead. So we want to be coming out of the first bead on layer 2. Now we are going to add 1 white bead. We are going to skip over this bead here, and we are going to go into the next white bead on layer 2. I hope this is not super confusing because I know they're green. And we pull it tight. When you do that, you will see you are starting to make vertical rows of beads, right? So your layer 1s, your odd layers, are all white in my version, and your layer 2s are all green in my version. We're going to add a white bead. We skip over this white bead. We go into the next green bead. We add a white bead. We skip over this white bead. We go into the next green bead. And now we've added all the beads for this layer, so we're going to go up a layer by going into that first white bead we added for this row. Still keeping it pulled tight. Now we're going to add another layer of green beads. So 1 green bead, skip over this green bead, go into this next white bead. One green bead, skip over this green bead, go into the next white bead. And last one, 1 green bead, skip over this green bead, go into the next white bead, and go into that first green bead from this layer in order to step it up to the next layer. Okay, so now we've got, looks like that. It's 2 and 2. So we're going to do one more layer like this of white beads, right? We're coming out of green, we're going into white, or we're adding white, so we've got white. Go into the next green bead right here. Add a white bead, skip over the white bead, go into the green bead. Add a white bead, skip over the white bead, go into the next green bead, and up through that first white bead that you've added. So for me, the size that I like my mushroom stems to be, we're going to change it now. So once you've got a row of 2 and a row of 3, now you're going to change it up and you're going to add 2 beads in between each sticking up bead. So I'm going to add 2 green beads here. 1, 2, and go into the next white bead. And this is going to give you the kind of like bulging effect where it gets a little bigger at the bottom. So we've added 2 green beads right in between the white. We're going to do it again. 1, 2 green into the next white. And 1, 2 green into the next white. And when we go into the next white, we're also going to go through both of those green beads that we added for the first step in this layer. So it's going to look like that. And you're going to be coming out of the 2 beads you just added into this empty space. Now we're going to add 1 bead, so 1 white bead in each of these empty spaces. Add a white bead, go into the next 2 green beads. Add a white bead, go into the next 2 green beads. And this is the last one, so we're going to add a white bead. We're going into the next 2 green beads and up through that first white bead on this layer. Just like that. Okay. Then we'll do 1 more row of 2 beads. So we're going to add 2 green beads in between each white bead here. Okay, coming out of a white bead, add 1, 2 green into the next. 1, 2 green into the next. And it's the last one, so we'll add 2 green. We will go into this white bead, and then we will also go through these first 2 green beads that we added on this layer. 1, 2 into the white bead, and also the green beads. And my string has gotten tangled, so I'm going to untangle it real quick. There we go. Okay, so now we're coming out of a cluster of 2, and we're going to add 1 white bead in each of these spaces. So we'll go 1 white bead through the next 2. Boop. 1 white bead through the next 2, and 1 white bead through the next 2, and then up through that first white bead that we added for this layer. And now we're just going to add a row of 1, so 1 white bead, or sorry, 1 green bead, 1 green bead, 1 green bead. This is how we're going to close it off. So we add 1 green bead, go into the next white. 1 green bead, go into the next white. 1 green bead, go into the next white. And so now we've got the bottom on our stem. And in order to hold it sturdy, hold it in place, we're going to just run our string through these 3 beads without adding anything at all. So we'll go through this green bead, and then through this green bead, and then through this green bead, and back through that first green bead, just like that. So we have a little loop, and we'll pull it tight. Now we're going to tie it off, and I am going to do my absolute best to show you how I tie it off. It is a little tricky because I know my fingers are kind of going to be in the way here. So you've got this string here, right? Your string is coming out here, and then you've got where you looped it. You're going to run your needle under the string where you looped it. And then you're going to use that to make a knot. And you're going to pull it tight And then you're going to do that like 3 more times, 2 or 3 more times, until you feel like, okay, good, we got a solid knot here. We are secure. We are safe. We are not going to come undone. Okay, that's 2, and that's 3. Okay, so we've got this knot. We're going to cut off the rest of that tail there and kind of squinch the beads around so that the knot is hidden in the bead. You can also take, like, if you have clear nail polish, if you have super glue, hot glue may even work for this, and you just dab a little drop on the knot and then push it into the bead. You can do the same with the knot that's up here, hidden in the bead at the top, if you want to make sure your beads are really secure. And then you just crunch it up, and you've got a mushroom. This one looks very silly because it is a bunch of different colors, but if you do it all one color, it's gonna look like that. And that's how you make a candied mushroom. If you finish the tutorial and you are still having trouble with the stem, I recommend practicing multi-stitch and looking into circular peyote stitch. Those are the things that this stem is based on, and so practicing those more will definitely help you get the stem down. The top is also based on circular peyote, and honestly also, like, if you practice doing X-base, I think it will also come a lot easier. Practice, 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 practice. It took me probably 10 or 11 tries before I finally started consistently making mushrooms that I was happy with. My first couple of mushrooms were very lopsided and very silly looking. So don't get discouraged. Oh my God, I can't talk today. Don't get discouraged if you make a mushroom and it looks funky. They always look funky at first. Just keep on trying, keep on practicing. It definitely takes time to, like, figure out the tension, you know, exactly like how tight you want to keep it the entire time, and experiment, have fun with it. You can take what you learned here and you can make giant mushrooms. You can use tiny beads, you can use seed beads and make little bitty mushrooms. It's a really, like, versatile kind of technique that you can definitely, like, expand on, and I love seeing all of the different types of mushrooms that people make with this. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. If you had struggled with the earlier tutorial, I hope that this one was a little bit easier to follow. I did my best. I think that is probably the best I can do on trying to make this into a video tutorial. Regardless, if you enjoy my tutorials and you want to help support the channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you are able and it's something you want to do, you can also subscribe to my Patreon. I have a bunch of patrons who keep Hubert well fed and happy, and I am forever in their debt. It is like their support and efforts that keep me here doing what I am doing every day. So links to all that stuff are down in the description of this video, and I hope you have a good time. I would love to see what you make. Tag me if you post it anywhere. Okay, bye, Plur.